platform most important to me is ensuring students have access to safe and clean housing. This pandemic has shown students being taken advantage of with the widespread rent spikes paired with toxic mold that poses a health risk in itself. These are things that need to be addressed head on, and tenants deserve to have their demands heard.
Item on my list that is most important to me is advocating for safety. I plan to work with campus safety because of the upsetting amounts of sexual assault and sexual harassment cases that have occurred on this campus. I plan to install a 24-hour call line that people can call if they feel unsafe while walking home, or they can be picked up if needed. No one should feel unsafe in their own community.
IB safety is most important to me. I aim to create a program offering free self-defense classes for each UCSB student, ensuring an individual sense of security for all.
The most important part of my platform is creating more accessible outdoor study spaces throughout Isla Vista that have access to charger ports like those found at HSSB to help those study during the pandemic.
Rent control is the most important platform I plan on advocating for. Rent control benefits the students who live off campus by stabilizing one of the many fees college students face and creating affordable housing for students who choose not to live on campus.
I would like to improve upon current safety measures in Isla Vista. Just last week, there's an attempted kidnapping, and students from minority groups have also been voicing concerns about their safety. This past year has been difficult, and the last thing we should be worried about is walking alone or being the victim of a racially motivated attack. I would hope to work with other senators and organizations to implement additional precautionary measures and advocate for all marginalized communities to provide a safe environment for all students.
The most important facet of my campaign to me is making sure that I'm representing you and the off-campus students' needs by hosting frequent town halls with my fellow senators to make sure you, my future constituency, are being heard and increasing transparency in all senatorial actions.
The most important part of my platform is creating a community where students feel more comfortable walking down the street and feel like they belong.
My most important part of my platform and closest issues to my heart is being an advocate for our student body. So many of our students come from different backgrounds and situations that make their experience entirely different. There's going to be more space for support and empathy, especially through these hard times for remote instruction that many of us are not completely adjusted to. I have first-hand experience unforgiving professors as classes, as well as being first-hand at counseling. And I want to decrease these stories to make every student feel like they're supposed to be here at this institution they earn their way into. Thank you.
Reach. The world is more than 1 year into the COVID-19 pandemic, and the end is finally near. Yet we seem to be more polarized than ever before. As UCSB students, what we can do is try and cross these lines. Talk to the people you disagree with. This is the only way we'll come out of this as a stronger community. Reach.
An item on my platform is to use previous AAS year's budgets rollover fund, which accumulates to about $2 million today, and giving it back to students that pay full tuition for an online class.
I plan to work with the Office of the External Vice President of Local Affairs to tackle the issue of homelessness in Isla Vista. I plan to advocate for all those experiencing houselessness and get students safely involved.
Many UCSB departments do not provide adequate information and support regarding our transition to the workforce. I intend to strengthen career opportunity outreach in UCSB departments through speaker series and a variety of initiatives to help you access your career possibilities.
Right now, I'm most concerned about redirecting wasteful AS expenditures back to students and initiatives in opening campus. I'm frustrated with the lack of transparency in reopening, and I think too much money is going back to senators instead of going back into initiatives to make campus a safer place.
I support decreasing these fees. So many students will be unfairly paying for a service they cannot use or will not use, either out of safety or other reasons, as well as not having the proper funds to pay for something they cannot use to begin with. So I feel like it's entirely unfair to expect students to pay for it.
I completely believe that we should be decreasing student fees, especially because right now school is online and there are very few people on campus to provide these extra services for. Additionally, the pandemic has brought about many unforeseen circumstances, and I think it is the time to be understanding in regards to tuition costs.
If students are using the services, I support keeping the fees the same. However, students have not been using the services this year, therefore it's ridiculous they have to pay.
I support decreasing the tuition to lessen the burden on students.
I support decreasing the fees, although I also understand university workers still need to be paid for their work at the university. I would advocate for more transparency from the university on where and how the fees would be dispersed, since we as a student body have not stepped foot on campus for the past year.
As UCSB reopens, I support lessening student funds and using that money to go towards buildings that are being creatively used and sufficiently cleaned. I support lessening spending on areas of campus that will not be open until the fall or later.
I support decreasing student fees, which seemingly would decrease the capability of the school to operate programs. However, from prior experience in AS, I will focus on analyzing the social return of AS entities to optimize their services so that your fees are not wasted.
Support decreasing the cost of student fees and decreasing the cost of tuition. For one, we are not getting the same quality of education we were when we were on campus. And two, we cannot utilize the activities present on campus because we are stuck at home.
I support eliminating unnecessary fees when budgets allow. It is important to maintain student services such as CAPS, the MCC, and the RecCen, which are vital components of our community.
I absolutely support reducing student fees to lessen the cost of attending UCSB. Over the past year, while tuition has remained the same, services and operating costs have been cut severely by the university. I plan to cut costs in areas that will be unused in the future so that we can lessen the burden on families that are struggling.
The administration needs to be held accountable for creating an extra layer of stress that's fallen upon students. If these fees aren't compensated, I plan to continue to push for refunding, but also work pragmatically to find a creative solution.
I will reduce your student fees, but I also support funding some necessary on-campus activities like CAPS and CLAS, which are ever more important to fund.
I'm for lowering tuition and student fees for all students as long as campus is closed, or reallocating on-campus resources to make sure that our money is being spent in our best interest. I'm also going to fight with my fellow senators to get the money back that was used for resources students did not have access to.
I support decreasing student fees to lessen the cost of campus-based fees that students are currently not using, although support adjusting fees in cases where there needs to be a COVID safety improvements that would allow for students to use physical campus resources.